Welcome back to Power and Politics with the Power Panel. Melissa Lantsman, Andrew Thompson, David Hertel, and John Paul Tasker. The Liberal Party has announced its decision on which debates the Prime Minister will participate in. The party issued this statement earlier this afternoon. Prime Minister Trudeau will take part, they write, in both debates organized by the Leaders Debates Commission. The campaign team is also in conversations with TVA. We hope and encourage TVA to consider participating in the Commission's debates in the next election. And Maclean's Paul Wells also posted on Instagram earlier that the Liberals had told Maclean's and CityTV that Trudeau would not do that planned debate on September 12th. JP, I'll start with you. Not a huge surprise. There had been a lot of speculation given that they hadn't responded already to those debates. What do you think the calculation?
Maybe I'm looking at this with rose-colored glasses, but don't you want every opportunity to take your message to the Canadian people? I mean, last time around, let's not forget the Conservative Party said that Justin Trudeau would have a good night on the debate stage if he just showed up with his pants on. And then he did, and then he did quite well, and he actually did well in virtually all of the debates, and he really convinced people that the Conservative line that he just wasn't ready just wasn't necessarily true. He did quite well, so why would you be avoiding this? Why wouldn't you want to take your message to the Canadian people on as many platforms as you possibly can? Obviously, there's opportunity for error. There's more opportunity for error for the more times you go up on that debate stage, but there's also more opportunity to woo voters, and they're not exactly in a position of strength right now. I get it for Brian Pallister in Manitoba when he's got a 20-point lead over the NDP, but they're tied with the Conservatives right now. They're at 33-33 by all measures. So it's not exactly like they're running away with this election as it is right now. I think you'd want to get as many people as you could on board with the Liberal message.
David is shaking his head.
Yeah, well, I mean, a couple of things. There's a big difference between now and 2015. Justin Trudeau is no longer the dark horse upstart to talk about change, running from third place, needing that exposure. Now he's the Prime Minister, and when you're an outgoing Prime Minister, these stages are basically you have three other leaders gunning for you, and you can at best hope for a draw, and you can rarely actually gain ground. And when we're talking about 33-33, yeah, that's nationally. But when you're looking at the key swing ridings, for example, the provinces like Ontario and Quebec, the Liberals are in the lead and actually comfortably in the lead. The vote distribution of the Liberals is much better than the Conservatives. It's the Conservatives right now that actually have to make inroads in Ontario and in Quebec in those key seats if they hope to form a government. So, and also regarding the Maclean's debate, I spoke about this last time I was on the show. I think the Trudeau government is aiming for an election call right after the Manitoba election, which is September 10th. And the Maclean's debate is September 12th. So I think it's also part of an overall communication strategy to avoid the Maclean's debate and to properly launch the campaign according to their timetable and their plan.
I get all the strategy, Andrew. I think, though, from a point of view where we remember very clearly in the last election, the now Prime Minister Justin Trudeau highly criticizing then Prime Minister Stephen Harper for avoiding debates as well. There is a bit of irony there, right?
Well, I think the other big risk is if these debates go ahead, what are the optics of an empty chair? And does this provide a real opportunity for Andrew Scheer to control that agenda? And do you end up then with this debate for the next couple of days being how did Andrew Scheer perform versus Jagmeet Singh, who both have very sharp messages on opposite sides? It actually gives Scheer a chance to look prime ministerial. And I think that that's an odd ground for the Liberals to cede to their key component, or their key opponent, the Conservative leader. So this is it's an interesting calculation they've made. I'm not sure that it's necessarily the right one, and it may change very well that they decide to participate in the third debate even if they skip the first one. But again, this will come down to whether these debates move ahead, and if so, is it going to be just tightly focused on those who show up, or are you going to have the empty chairs available at the same time?
Yeah, exactly. And Melissa, on the flip side, I mean, will there be as much scrutiny, as much spotlight on a debate that doesn't include the sitting Prime Minister?
Well, I think right after an election call, or potentially around the time of an election call, certainly you have 3 days of tuned-in public, but you don't get a job if you don't show up for the interview, and that's exactly what this debate ends up being. In 2015, Justin Trudeau would have said the same thing: the open, the transparent. If I was the other candidates, I would be delighted at the opportunity to debate an empty chair and to point out what the government has not done over the course of 4 years, or how it's not met its its commitments. And if I was advising the other three parties, I would advise them to go after that chair and not each other.
But do you think Canadians, JP, will absorb that? Like, is that something that people will sit down and watch, just everyone attacking an empty chair?
Maybe not an empty chair, but I do take the point that if Andrew Scheer comes off prime ministerial, especially up against Jagmeet Singh and Elizabeth May, that could bode well for him, because I know if they go ahead, those debates will cover them. We will have coverage on this television network. I certainly will be writing stories out of them. We won't just ignore them because the Prime Minister hasn't shown up. And I don't think it's really wise for this party to write them off, because based on everything I've seen for Justin Trudeau, when he's underestimated, that's when he does best. So if they really think he's going to screw up in these debates, if he's going to have a bunch of gaffes, if he's going to say
But maybe it's not that they think that. Maybe it's just that the presumption would be that he would be constantly, I mean, clearly they're going to be on the attack on his record, right?
If you can't handle that, then maybe you shouldn't be Prime Minister. I mean, he's also been able to grow into the role of Prime Minister in the House of Commons, and he's been able to bat away some of the more nasty partisan shots at him in the Commons there. He has definitely done better than he started in the last couple of months there. So I think he could definitely turn it on again. I don't understand why they're so scared.
The other interesting thing, go ahead, yeah.
I just want to pick up on David's point, which is about the regional nature of the election. And I think that is really the other calculation that's got to be figured in. A national debate isn't really what's happening. We're not going to have a national campaign. You're going to have 2 or 3 campaigns, Vancouver Island, Lower Mainland. We're going to have a fight between, in the 905 and the GTA here. The Quebec piece, I mean, who knew New Brunswick politics was so interesting before today? If you're not participating in those regional debates, or those ones that are going to be seen to be more regional, I think you lose a little bit of that message. And that Ontario number, as much as the Liberals are up right now, that's heavily concentrated in downtown Toronto. There are a lot of swing seats in the GTA that people are going to be watching for, where are the leaders on that?
The other key area, David, is of course Quebec, and I did find it interesting that TV, they agreed, they're basically agreeing to one extra one besides the commissions, and that would be the one held by TVA. TVA is not a part of the consortium this time. We also saw the statement express hope that they do become a part of the consortium, but interesting that they would choose to do that one as their +1.
Yeah.
Well, they're throwing a bone at Pierre-Carl Pelado and TVA, which, nothing against the Radio-Canada, but in Quebec, TVA has the lion's share of the ratings. And they've been doing their own debates on the provincial side, and they want to do their own debate again. And so what Justin Trudeau is, and again, picking up on my point that Andrew picked up, regionally speaking, they're opening the door, the Liberals are opening the door to the TVA debate, because they know that if they're not there, if they're not part of that debate, then they have a real risk of not being able to hold their lead. So they want to be present in Quebec, and to do that, you have to be on TVA.
I just think that's fundamentally unfair, though, to do 2 debates in French and then just leave it to one in English.
I look forward to the mail you get from Quebecers right now.
No, but what message does that send to Anglophones, though, that it's more important to do more debates in French and we can just leave it to the one?
It's far more inconsistency in the message. We're going to do the commission's debates, and then we're going to do this one more debate of our choosing. So why not Maclean's? Why not the other ones in Vancouver? The entire argument doesn't make sense, and it's inconsistent with who he was in 2015.
I'm not saying it makes sense at all, and I'm not saying it's consistent. I'm just saying, strategically speaking, in English, the Liberals do not want any more debates than they have to do talking about SNC-Lavalin for an hour. That's at the end of the day. That's the bottom line. The bottom line is the least in English Canada. The least amount of time you're being attacked from all sides on leadership, on India, the India trip, and on SNC-Lavalin. While in Quebec, it's a battleground. SNC-Lavalin is not as big a deal as the rest of the country, as we all know.
Makes sense. Are you a voter who pays close attention to leaders' debates? Well, this election campaign, you'll be able to watch all the party leaders face off in at least 2 debates, one English, one French. Those were organized by the newly formed Leaders' Debates Commission. But the Liberal Party confirmed today Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has declined invitations to 2 other debates, one hosted by the Munk Debates, the other hosted by Maclean's. So will those shows still go on? Rudyard Griffiths is the organizer and moderator of the Munk Debates. He joins us now from Toronto. Hi, Mr. Griffiths. Nice to see you. Thanks for doing this. Appreciate it.
Great to be with you.
So let me start off by asking just by your reaction to the Liberal Party's statement today that they won't participate in your debate.
Well, I think we need to be clear about what that statement actually says. It does not say that they will not participate in either the Maclean's debate or the Munk debate. It simply confirms that as of this moment, they are participating in the two sanctioned commission debates that their government has established, and they are exploring further with TVA whether or not a second French language debate can be organized. So we have roughly 13,000 people across Canada who've signed up for our campaign calling for an election debate on foreign policy. We're going to keep that campaign going until we hear from the Prime Minister one way or another. To date, they have our invitation. They have until September 23rd to reply. We're going to keep the pressure on. If there ever was a time for a debate on foreign policy, this surely is that moment. You just had a segment on Brexit. We've got events in Hong Kong. We've got civil wars in Syria and Yemen. We have an unprecedented set of foreign policy challenges with the United States, our bilateral relationship with our most important ally and partner. And we know things with China and Russia are not easy for Canada either. So I think there's compelling reasons to have this debate, and we very much hope that the Prime Minister comes around to accepting our invitation. He's got a couple more weeks to reflect on this, and we look forward to going forward with this debate in Toronto on Roy Thomson Hall's stage on October 1st.
So let me just be clear for our viewers then, because I'll read the statement. It says Prime Minister Trudeau will take part in both debates organized by the Commission. The Commission was established after the last election, et cetera, et cetera. The Commission debates will be widely distributed on television, radio, digital, and social streaming platforms and reach the largest possible audience. The campaign team is also in conversations with TVA as the only major Canadian network not included in the Commission. We hope that encourage TVA to consider participating in the Commission's debates in the next election. So you read that as it's still a maybe. Like, you haven't heard specifically from the Prime Minister or the campaign team saying he will not specifically participate in your debate.
Absolutely. I can confirm that 100%. And I believe that Maclean's is in the same position. And I think on behalf of both organizations, we're here simply to provide a public service. We think more debates equals more democracy. We had 5 debates in the 2015 federal election. It kind of would be a shame if we went down from 5 only to 2, one in French and one in English. I think that's a step backwards in terms of the democratic process and providing Canadians with valuable information during an election to make an informed choice on October 21st.
If the Prime Minister does specifically decline to participate in the debate, will it continue?
Well, we're going to evaluate all of our options come the 23rd of September. It, again, is our strong interest. I mean, we're a charity. We're a foundation that's doing this to the benefit of Canadians. So we certainly want the Prime Minister there. He represents over a third of Canadians' voting intentions at this moment. But we also reserve the right, as the organizers of this debate, not funded by the federal government like the Leaders Debate Commission is, to go ahead with this debate and have an empty chair on the stage at Roy Thomson Hall.
So that is an option that still is available to you?
That will be the Prime Minister's choice.
And what about the argument, I mean, stepping outside of, I know you represent your organization, but we've had strategists discuss this already on the show, for example, and the argument they put forth is it's a different time for Justin Trudeau, 2019 versus 2015. He would be, attacked by all sides because he was running on his record. What does he have to gain by doing something outside of the one debate? What would your response to that be?
Yeah, look, I'm not a political strategist. I run a charity and I'm interested in the public good. And I think, frankly, politicians need to get out of these hermetically sealed truth bubbles that they move around in the country during campaigns, where they have these carefully crafted photo ops. They have canned speeches. They're talking to loyal supporters. They need to be pressure tested. They need to be put on a stage. They need to be able to show Canadians what their arguments are and how they handle them in a live event, free from their advisors, free from the safety ropes that support them for the majority of this election campaign. I truly believe, and I think the 13,000 people who are supporting our campaign, we're adding 500 to 1,000 new people a day, believe more debates equal more democracy. I think politicians, including the Prime Minister, should be putting themselves in this election campaign into service of Canadians, into service of the democratic process. And to do that, they should be participating in more than 2 debates, certainly more than 2 debates, only one in English and one in French.
Okay, I'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Mr. Griffiths. Really appreciate your time. That's Rudyard Griffiths, the organizer and moderator of Munk Debates. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video. Thanks for watching.